Hi, it's Kevin Lobates here, and let's start with a quote from a T.S. Eliot poem. "Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law, he breaks the law of gravity." So today I want to talk about smart contracts and some of the misconceptions I see about them, and draw an analogy between law and smart contracts. So if you look at human law, it's arbitrary. We decide as a society that we don't like people running around killing each other, so we pass a law against it, and we use the threat of force or penalties in order to enforce that law and hopefully change human behavior using that deterrent. And that's human law, and it's kind of arbitrary. We decide as a society which laws we think are important and which ones we think are not. If you look at the laws of physics or the laws of mathematics, they're a different beast altogether. We observe the universe and we try and find patterns, and then we codify those patterns into laws. So then you have something like Newton's laws of motion, for example. And they all work very well, and then we discover more about the universe and we find that at very small scales or very large scales the laws don't quite work anymore, and we formulate some new ones. But there, it's kind of, we're not inventing those laws, we're observing the universe and trying to make sense of patterns. And similarly in mathematics you have laws, for example the amusingly named weak law of large numbers, which I think was discovered by Bernoulli, and basically says that if you have a large population of random variables and you take samples, the more samples you take, the more the average of your sample set tends towards the average of the whole set, i.e. the final conclusion of that is that if you want your statistics to be more accurate, take a bigger sample set at random and you'll get a more accurate figure. So those kind of laws are different. And smart contracts, you hear people talking about them as though they are going to replace lawyers. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think it'll take a lot more than some computer code to replace lawyers. And the main reason why I don't think smart contracts are going to replace lawyers is because smart contracts kind of fall more into the sort of natural sciences law side of thing than they do into human laws. We are codifying things that we are interested in as human beings, and there is the possibility of creating smart contracts that enforce financial penalties if they're not met. But fundamentally there's this code and it describes how the system will churn along, so they're deterministic, and you can look at them, and provided you're a clued up enough developer, you can say, yes, this code will trigger under these conditions and it will do this thing. So it is kind of making a contract formal, codifying it, which is sort of what the law tries to do, but it's tangling with problems with language and problems with meaning, whereas the idea of smart contracts is that the meaning is meant to be totally clear. There are these digital assets. If this event occurs on the blockchain, then they will be transferred from A to B, stuff like that. So they probably will have an impact on contract law, but of course contract law is only a very small subsection of the entire body of human laws, and most of the human laws are actually about interpreting situations and deciding under a predefined structure what steps we take next. And that, in short, is why I think that smart contracts are a totally different beast to human law in general. There's a meetup in Helsinki on the 8th of October being hosted by Jay Hamida, who is, I think, pretty clued up about this, the legal side of things when it comes to this stuff. Unfortunately, I can't go to the meeting, but I thought I would plug it because it looks like it would be interesting, and I really wish that I could be hanging around in Helsinki on that Tuesday, I believe it is, Tuesday evening. So I hope you guys have a good time there and come up with all sorts of fantastic and wonderful conclusions. That's it for today. See you in the next video soon. Bye for now.